big one. Take us behind those rocks.
Moving behind the rocks.
Keep going. You're good. You're good. You're good. And stop. Don't worry, Captain. We'll buff out those scratches.
All right, welcome back to the Camo Convoy Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things overland, off-road, and the great outdoors. With me today is Aaron. Aaron, who are we? What do we do? Why are we here?
We are here because we like going out in the woods, driving our vehicles off-road, and talking to other people about it.
Yeah, and just a very brief how Camo started. Camo is Central Appalachian Mountain Overland. Without getting into too much detail about our first trip, there was just a couple guys and we all sold our cars, bought trucks, went out into the woods, and we found ourselves in the middle of West Virginia, lost. And we said, you know what? This is sweet. Let's get lost more.
Yeah.
And we had an open invite and more people started showing up. And then the phrase overlanding was something that I heard. And I was like, so that's what this is called. That's cool. So I think I made a Facebook group, and all of a sudden there's all these people local 3 states away, and they're like, hey, that sounds fun. I want to follow a stranger into the woods.
Yep.
Here we are. One of our biggest principles, though, is as we talk about these trips, and hopefully as time goes on, we do talk about some of the things that we've done and places that we've gone. One of the reasons that I formally formed Camo as an actual entity was when I was looking at folks to connect with and do this with, I would come across these posts and then there was a paywall. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I'm just looking for some homies to go out into the woods with. And I didn't think personally that it was right to have money involved with that. I just want to make friends and go off-roading and do hood rat stuff with my friends. So that's Camo. We go outdoors, we overland, and we off-road. Now today, we're going to touch on that off-roading. Aaron, what's today going to be?
We are going to teach you how to drive and not be a pain on the trails.
Yeah, this is going to be off-roading for dummies. And Aaron, we have seen some dummies off-roading. But before we get into that, let's talk about the difference between off-roading and overlanding. There's some overlap, but I think there's some important differences. So, Aaron, what would you consider off-road?
Off-roading to me is taking a vehicle, going out, and finding the limits of what it will do. You might care about the vehicle, you might not. You tend to go farther if you don't. But it's about testing limits,
Yeah.
obstacles. Sometimes it's the destination too, but a lot of the times the trail is the destination.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good way to put it. The focus is you're looking for obstacles and you want to beat the obstacle with your vehicle. I think that's a good way to look at off-road. Now, whereas overland, I think that you could simply sum that up as vehicle-based, rural, or backcountry exploring. You might
Absolutely.
be off-roading. You might be off-roading when that happens. You might not. You might be on a dirt road. But it's that exploration, that travel, and being vehicle-based. I know there's like some gray area with the side-by-sides and whatnot, but I don't associate with those kinds. So as we talk about off-roading, right, I want this to really be our goal. And your goal should be, how can I have the most fun while I cause the least amount of damage to my truck and the trail that I'm driving on, so that this isn't like my last rodeo. Like I go and do this black trail and just destroy my truck and I can't do this again. We want to equip you so that this is like your hobby and your truck stays out of the shop and it stays on the trail. So I think the most important one, and this is my pet peeve, I feel like I should get this tattooed like on my forearm or something, is airing down. So Aaron, what should these guys do? We have a new driver and they're asking, what should I do with my tires?
The short answer is air down, but there are so many variables to it. And everybody's got an opinion on it, and some are right and some are really wrong. Most of
Yeah.
the time I see people not going far enough low. They don't let enough air out.
Yes, definitely do not let enough air out. I've heard people say, and we've asked, we've taken trips where folks have said, yeah, I aired down. But I see like they'll get up on a rock and they are immediately getting wheel hop. I never want to come off as like, you dummy, what are you doing? But it's like, hey, what did you air down to? And let's say they're in a Tacoma. Oh, I dropped to 28. Okay.
The door says what? 29, 32,
Yeah.
somewhere in that.
Right, right. And I don't think, when it comes to dropping pressure and I want to focus on, let's say that we're on a trail where we have rock obstacles. We're in 4 low, we're crawling, and we are airing down in order to gain more traction. When we air down, our goal is we want our tire to deform obstacles. So if something sharp hits that tire, it's not going to puncture it. But also when it deforms, imagine, if I'm going to grab this can, if my hand is aired up, I can't grab this can. But if my hand can deform around the obstacle, it's aired down, I can grab the thing. And that's the premise for airing down over rocks. So I would say what I typically tell guys, and I'm speaking from mid-sized trucks here, mid-sized truck with an E-range tire. My personal thought is, number one, you should be experimenting before you even go out to the trail. But
Absolutely.
a good place to start for most trucks built out in an overland space, if you're going to start off-roading, is start at 18 pounds. That seems to be a pretty good start. And then see what that does for you. If you feel like you're getting a ton of tire roll, or you're driving down the road at 45 and it's, blue in the sidewalls, you might need to go up. But if, you think that, well, I'm still getting a little bit of wheel hop, my truck's pretty light, I don't have a ton of overland gear, then okay, bump it down 2 psi and see what that does for you. I can promise you that if you haven't aired down because you say things like, well, I don't need to, I've never been stuck, you're doing it wrong. And maybe you want to bring up a couple things that can happen if we don't air down.
I'd say probably the biggest thing is probably a sidewall puncture. I would much rather have too little air in the tire, get up against a rock and push that sidewall back, let the air out. I've got air. I can put air back in it. We've got a lot of air.
Yeah.
I can't fix a sidewall. Not easily.
Nope.
So
I mean,
I kind of lean towards, I go softer and let it tell me it's too soft and then put air back in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I definitely, especially if you're on a trail, like let's say we're not mixing overlanding and off-road. If you're on a trail, you like you said, the worst thing that's going to happen is you come down on something in your side and you blow a bead. Guys, I promise it's not that big of a deal. Like
No.
9 times out of 10, you don't even have to do the whole light it on fire thing, right? That's just fun. It's dumb.
Yeah, it's just fun.
But it's fun.
A tire that's been mounted and has been run has a natural, like it wants to be on the bead. It wants to go back to where it was.
Yeah.
And if you just get the tire center, the rim centered in the tire and throw air at it, it's probably going to reseat itself.
Yep.
You only have to take the wheel off. Just jack it up, get it close.
Yep. Yeah. And the risks, like the one that gets me, and especially on bigger trucks, is when they start wheel hopping. That's something that you're just not going to see on a truck that's aired down properly. Not only is that wheel going to hop, but the suspension's bouncing, the truck's bouncing, and every time that rear end is ratcheting, that your whole drive line is taking that up, and it's not worth it.
It shock loads everything, and that's where you break stuff.
Yep.
Everything is pushed to its limit. When a vehicle leaves the ground, that tire is gaining speed.
Yep.
And then when it stops abruptly, well, everything else in the drivetrain has momentum. So it's going to find the weak link. Guaranteed.
And that weak thing is not the easy thing to fix. Never is. Never is. No.
Especially
definitely.
when people start building stuff out, they fix the weak links, and eventually the weak link becomes the thing that's really expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you have an axle shaft. What are you going to do when you're in the middle of the woods and you have an axle shaft and a whole wheel and wheel cylinder that's laying on the trail?
Yep. There are not too many full floating axles out there.
No.
Not with what we do.
No. And it's just not worth it. And aside from that, I think Instagram and YouTube and the viral videos of trucks just and spinning and stuff, like that's cool in your backyard, but you're destroying the trail. And when people that care about the trail see that, they're getting upset. They're upset at you. People that maybe own that property that are letting you on it are upset. And that just furthers, and this is a whole other conversation, but now you're limiting access for people because all you had to do was air down and go easy on that throttle. And I know it's beating a dead horse, but like, just air down. Promise every single thing will be better. We just did the 24 hours of Appalachia, and for that particular route, you know, it was 502 miles. That route, I knew that there was a decent bit of pavement that I wanted to maintain a driven in
Good
Mexico type pace.
Yeah.
You know, so I ran, I believe that I ran, I think 18 front, 16 rear, I think is what I opted for. And I did that very hard for 500 miles. And those tires were brand new when I started. And guess what? They look brand new right now.
That's something that I think people don't understand is how durable tires are. They go through so much testing to get that dot sticker put on them. They can be run super, super low. I mean, it never fails. You're in traffic, there's going to be some rundown old vehicle with a sidewall bulged out with 4
Yep.
pounds of air in it, and it's going to go to McDonald's. It's going to go home. It's going to be like that 3 years from now.
Yep. It's the ultimate test. That's what the DOT test is. It's for ultimate people.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it
don't want
has
to say
to
it, but like,
yeah, well,
I mean, that's what it is. That's what
it
it
has
is.
to, yeah, it has to
It's the
survive.
stereotype.
It has to survive on the road, the lowest common maintenance denominator.
Yep.
In order to keep everybody else safe. And these are passenger rated tires. These are tires that if you felt the sidewall, you would think to yourself, these aren't
They're
going to hold
paper
up,
thin.
but yet they do. You grab an LT tire that's rated for like 2,800 pounds a corner. I challenge you the next time that you change your tires and you have a pair that's going to go get recycled, ask them if you can stab that sidewall. Because I did a video about a year and a half ago. I had a pair of Nokian Rockproof tires. They're an LT. I forget what the load range was. They were E-rated, but whatever.
Right.
I was going to cut the sidewall out because I wanted to talk about how 10 plies isn't 10 plies, right?
Right. Right.
I had to cut the camera because my big gorilla ass couldn't stab through the sidewall of the tire.
I had a buddy that broke a knife. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to get you." Bam! Hits it. Ends up cutting his hand. The sidewall was fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So long story short, guys, I promise your tires are going to be okay. Now, things you shouldn't do, right? Don't air down to like 8 PSI and then go run the highway home at 65.
I think I might have gone a good hour like that a time or two and been fine.
So I won't even say they'll explode, but you will start to generate heat. And I actually had a set of tires do this because I did it in Kentucky in 2021-ish. I did the whole trip at 10 pounds. And that was like a 300-mile weekend. And a lot of that had road. When I dismounted those tires from heat, I actually had rubber beads form on the inside.
Yeah.
So the damage wasn't visible on the outside, but there was wear. However, those set of Wild Peaks had 45,000 miles on them when I took them off, and all 45,000 of those miles were me beating them. So you're going to be all right. I promise.
You're going to be okay.
You know, and as far as beadlocks, I mean, if you have a purpose-built off-road rig, sure. I don't know. I mean, I think you've dealt with them. They suck to deal with. They suck. And if you have an overland truck and you're talking about beadlocks, dude, no, don't.
You got
just
a lot
don't
of time in your hands.
Time, and you got money, and you probably have someone else to deal with your problems. Because if you're the one dealing with them, there's no way you're buying. No, it's not worth it.
Plus, they're heavier. There's a performance hit really good.
Yep, especially, and we're already all over GVWR in Japanese trucks that make 150 horse to their wheels. You know what I mean?
Yep, I do.
Yeah. So, like, those are definitely things to consider. And you know, you take an extra pound of weight and put it 30 inches or 15 inches away from the rotational center. That's what, adding like 60 pounds of mass to move and stop. Something like that. Is
drag racing. It's like every pound rotational is like 4 pounds of static.
Yeah,
something like
so
that.
It's
some equation.
It's something to consider. And as far as like bead grips, I'm sure it probably helps. But I mean, I've never used them and I've never had a problem without them. So
I've been down as low as 6 pounds on OEM wheels and wrinkled sidewalls and
Yeah.
have yet to pop a bead.
Yeah. Actually, the first time that I did it was coming up. It wasn't Mountain Springs in Kentucky, but basically, I didn't want to go down in this rut and rub my mirror on this big trench. So I went up the hill and the front end slid down like 8 feet. And I think I was running 10 pounds. And when I hit, it blew the sidewall. I just,
Perfect, though. Couldn't
yeah,
ask for a better result. Like, if something's
exactly.
going to happen, great, the sidewall pop. That's a
That's
celebration.
exactly. I thought when I hit the wall, a root or something went through the sidewall. And I was like, that sucks.
That
But
sucks.
it was the biggest non-issue ever. I think I had the tire fixed before we had guys coming back up,
Yep.
behind me.
Didn't
So
even cause a traffic jam.
no, so don't stress out about it. I promise it is much better to be too low and deal with what happens when you're too low versus all of the other bad stuff that happens if you're not aired down enough. One thing to maybe consider, if you have a newer vehicle that's got TPMS and you still have metal valve stem TPMS sensors or the clamp on TPMS sensors, some of those are kind of thick, like the ones that band inside the wheel.
On the
If you don't
drop
have
center.
if you don't have enough sidewall, it's possible that you could negatively affect those. But again, like, who cares, right? You
Yep.
know. But yeah, I guess just wrapping up tires, man, air them down. I promise. And equally as important as airing down is what gear your transfer case is in.
Yes.
Because we have
Yes.
seen some guys do some not very smart things. So maybe if you want to talk about some instances for the different, 2 high, 4 high, 4 low, and then all
So,
those modes I don't like.
yeah, the modes thing, let's come back to that. Let's
Yeah.
talk, let's, we'll get there. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So let's stick with the three common ones here of like 2 high, 4 high, 4 low. I see a lot of people buy a 4-wheel drive vehicle, set it up really nicely, and refuse to use 4-wheel drive and celebrate. Oh, we did something in 2-wheel drive. And wow, buddy, like, why? Why would you do that? Like, you are creating so much binding throughout the whole vehicle. Your front
Mhm.
tires go up against a rock and they're not climbing. You're pushing. That's pushing on
Right.
control arms. That's pushing on bushings. That's pushing on ball joints.
Yep.
It's adding load to the transmission that's in the wrong gear. You don't have the torque available that you should.
Right.
So you're making transmission heat with an automatic or slipping the hell out of the clutch. And when you finally do get up over top of something, your back tires go over it, they're going to leave the ground. People don't realize how often an axle leaves the ground.
Yeah.
It bounces off, especially with too much air pressure. And
Yes.
we go back to shock loading stuff again. People who are running too high on trails that are more than gravel are asking for trouble. They are going
Yeah.
to spit a drive shaft out. They are going to break spider gears, axle shafts. They're going
Yeah.
to tear alignment out. It is going to negatively impact your vehicle.
Definitely.
quickly.
And
Maybe not
and
that trip, maybe not the next one, but it's coming.
yeah, tagging back to, you have a lot of things stacked up against you. So we know most of our trucks out there are heavier than they came from the factory. They're running bigger tires than they did from the factory. Everything is heavier. So that's stacked up against us. When you're in 2-wheel drive and you are lugging that engine, you're in an automatic more than likely. The truck isn't going to let you stall. Your torque converter is going to allow your RPMs to climb, and you have this big old potential energy ball just waiting to screw stuff up the second that you break traction. Because now you might be at 2,800, 3,000 RPMs lugged out in 2-wheel drive. Well, guess what,
Which
buddy?
is a 20-mile-an-hour wheel speed that you're just stopping.
And you're not moving there. The second that breaks free, everything is coming like you did a brake boosted launch. And the second it grabs again, that's when stuff breaks. So as far as I'm concerned, like, if you're on, like you said, anything more than gravel or hard pack,
treated gravel road.
yeah, hard pack 2-track, because here's the other thing that I see this when we take our camo trips all the time. We spend a lot of time on loose gravel mountainous roads. And for whatever reason, guys, I don't know if they think that like 4-wheel drive is going to wear out. Like, if you didn't know this, your transfer case is spinning like all the time regardless, right? It's just the difference of like one extra gear engaging, and they'll be in 2-wheel drive. and we're coming up these steep hills and loose gravel, and there's already brake bumps from people dragging their brakes, and there's big choppy, and they'll just be bap, 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 hopping and just laying into it, and you're launching rocks at the people behind you, you're tearing the road up, you're tearing your truck up. You have a knob half the time. If you're moving, you can just turn the damn knob, and it'll go into 4-wheel drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so yeah, just don't wheel in too high. And you know, you're not Robbie Gordon in Baja. I want to be, trust me, I really want to be, but I'm
I think we all
not.
do.
You know, it's my truck's not built for that, and I don't drive on that kind of terrain under those conditions. If you do, none of those comments were for you.
Yep. Yep. This is pretty much like East Coast wheeling 101.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We should definitely clarify, like if
East
you're
Coast
driving
and
at
West Coast different.
yes,
It's totally different. Vehicle sizes, drivetrains, what you want. Like this is very much East Coast
yes.
101.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point because I can think of being out west wheeling. There were times where it was appropriate to be in 2-wheel drive because the rocks are like a road.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Or you've got a dirt road that's smooth as could be for as far as you can see.
Yeah.
Dude, if you can do 60, 70 mile an hour on it, great.
Yeah.
You
Sure.
know?
Yeah. You know, now
You're
we're
not
in
finding
4-wheel.
that East Coast.
No. So now we're in 4-wheel drive. And now we have the choice to make. Are we going to be in 4 high or 4 low? Odds are, if you're asking that question, the odds are 4 low.
I think 4 high has a place. And I run 4 high on gravel roads, the choppy stuff, the washboard roads.
Yep.
Because it goes back to that axle leaving the ground. 2-wheel drive, it leaves the ground, spins up, boom, hits the ground, shock loads. And it keeps adding to the washboards.
Yep.
Like, people don't realize that there's every time the piston hits and it goes through the gearing, it's going to hit about so many inches per tire, on the tire. And every vehicle is going to be about that same bit. So when you get synced up, you're going to keep making the washboard effect on the road.
Yep.
So when you put this into 4 high, you're cruising gravel roads, say 25, 30 mile an hour. Now you have the front drivetrain that more than likely is going to be on the ground when the back's off the ground, but that's going to keep everything loaded smoothly. It takes all that shock loading out of the drivetrain, and you can just keep on cruising.
Yeah.
It will save your vehicle running 4 high. The only time I would kick out a 4 high is like a 180-degree hairpin.
Yeah,
You
right.
don't want that binding. But
Right.
outside of that, man, it gets pulled back into 4 high.
Yeah.
And I mean, most camo trips that I'm taking, I live in 4 high.
Yeah, because we very infrequently are cruising on roads. I try to really make it so that we're at minimum on some unimproved gravel, and most, I mean, I'm not going to speak for everything, here on the spot, but like most transfer cases that we're going to see, you could run at 60 miles an hour down the highway in the snow indefinitely.
I'd say even faster.
Yeah.
That stuff's spinning.
Yeah.
It's spinning whether you're 4 high or not.
Yep. In the owner's manual on my Frontier, I believe it's 55 miles an hour. They allow you to go from 2-wheel drive to 4 high. Everything's
think
synced
mine
up.
says
It's all
that.
spinning together.
Yep.
No.
I have done it successfully at 70.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hit range and I didn't want the rear end to kick out. So I was like, I'm not slowing down, but I'm grabbing the front end here.
Yep. I can think of a time I drove to work. I was working down in West Virginia traveling from Pennsylvania, and I was one of the only cars on Route 70 in a snowstorm. And I was in the Frontier. I was commuting it in at the time, and same deal, man. I did 55 to 65 in 4-wheel drive for, I don't know, man, 2 hours. And listen, that Nissan is on the factory transfer case. It's got 180 some thousand miles on it, and it's never had an easy life, You're not going to grenade a transfer case until you do what we're talking about wrong, and you start shock loading the thing and heating it up, and that brings me to my
That's a big thing. People don't
Yep.
kick them out in 4-wheel drive when they turn sharp.
Yep. Yeah. And
It kind of goes back to are you putting a lot of wheel into it? Because if you are, you're stressing CVs in the front, but you're also stressing the transfer case.
yeah, I mean, I shouldn't have to say this, but I will, right? When you're turning, right? This wheel's spinning slower, this wheel's spinning faster, right? Same thing's happening in the back, but also at different rates. You have rake, right? So that turn angle is not the same. when you have two open diffs and you're in four-wheel drive, you still got to have two wheels turning the same speed or else they're binding up. Add an LSD into the mix, maybe like in my case, I have a true track. So let's say I'm under throttle. My true track is positive traction, and now I'm turning. Something is either bind.
Is that limited slip or is it a locker?
So it's a torsion LSD. So that's actually not like
It's
a
a gear,
super great.
like the worm gear one.
Yeah, yeah. Not a
Okay.
super great example, I guess, because it kind of speed corrects. But regardless, same deal. If you have an LSD, if you have an LSD, it's worse. And if you're locked, which we didn't even talk about, and you throw the locker on, it's like way worse.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'd say it's way worse with a spool. I think if your locker's working right, a locker will not let a wheel turn slower than what the carrier is doing.
right,
So the outside wheels are going to overspin the inside wheels, but there's
Yeah.
still the front wheel is going to travel a farther distance than the back.
the rear. Yep.
So you're still
Yeah.
going to get that mismatch in speed from
Yeah.
front to rear, which is going to cause bind.
Yep. Now there's a variable one that I would say sand, and I think sand is vehicle dependent. I think if you have
That's a whole nother variable there.
it really is, because you got gearing, power, torque. If your
Tires.
vehicle, if
Yeah.
your vehicle is appropriate for it, 4-high might be appropriate, right? But if you're sitting there lugging it and you're building up heat and you're really not going that fast anyway, maybe it's a 4-low thing. I think
I think
wouldn't
sand's
even.
pretty much 4-low.
Yeah.
Like you need 4-low. If you're in deep sand, you are asking everything out of it, and you need the RPM, keep the radiator fan going, to keep the water pump going good.
Yeah.
Just lugging a motor. People don't understand that. Hey, when you get down towards idle RPM, you're not pumping the oil like you used to.
And
You're dropping
this is a
oil pressure.
perfect segue into why we wheel in 4-low. And
Yes.
it's for all of those reasons. If you were, and I think this is the best way to describe it. If you were on a trail where you have to pick lines, it is appropriate to be in 4-low.
Yes. That's a good way to differentiate.
Because if you're sitting there and you're in 4-high, you are experiencing the same gearing limitations you have in 2-wheel drive, where you're still spinning the motor up and the torque converter still wants to let go something. And it might even be worse, because 9 times out of 10, actually all the time, your front diff is going to be weaker than your rear axle.
Yep.
If you're IFS or off, if you're a solid axle rig, but not really,
Yeah, not really. Kinda, but no.
Yeah.
I've seen pretty tough being a 30s though.
Guys are, and your point about running the coolant at a higher RPM, kind of think about it as like a hydrostatic tractor, right? You wouldn't lug a hydrostatic tractor and let that hydraulic oil sit there and not go through the cooler and cycle and go through the pump and the fan. You want it to cycle. It's the same thing with your truck. High engine RPM isn't necessarily a bad thing. Now, there's a rate of diminishing returns, but if you're not flooring it, for an extended period of time, you're going to be okay.
Absolutely. I think with me, if I'm below 25 miles an hour and I know I'm going to be for a while, it goes straight to low range and I'm driving around in 4th and 5th gear.
Yeah.
I do it a lot.
Yeah. And most transfer cases, it's not going to be an issue.
They'll whine. I've been in them where some of them whine real bad. The old like GM 203, 205s, they were all straight cut gears, and straight cut gears make noise. That's okay. That's natural. It's supposed to happen. So what, you're running 30 mile an hour and the thing's sitting there going, "Rah!" It's okay. Ignore it.
Yeah.
It's normal.
Yeah.
Your car's making cool sounds, like just listen to it.
Yeah. And the one thing that we didn't really talk about is your brakes. When you're in 2-wheel drive and when you're in 4-high, think about if you're idling and you take your foot off the gas, right? It wants to go. It wants to go at road speed. But when your gearing is reduced, yes, it wants to pull. However, it's not going to keep pulling. Especially you're in 4-low first gear. It's not going to take you fast. You're not going to be riding your brakes.
No. I have been in situations where I've been in low range, like second gear, just cruising down a hill, 10 mile an hour. I don't have to touch the brake. The person behind me radioed me and they're like, "Hey, your brake lights are out." And I'm like, "Not on the brakes."
Yeah,
Like, "What do you mean you're not on the brakes?" And they're like, "We've been riding the brakes for 20 minutes. Not on the brakes. What gear are you in?" They're in high range.
Yeah.
High range 2-wheel drive coming down the mountain, and it's like 4 low, put it in this gear, and they were right there like, "Yeah, you don't have to use the brakes." It
Yeah.
saves all that, which
Yeah.
gets in
Now,
not overheating your rotors because at the bottom of that hill is probably water. You can thermally shock the rotors and warp them.
yep.
Yeah, you can sit there and do that. Just warp them sitting. Yeah, yeah, you're not just doing that at speed. I've done it at, like, 15 and, like, rev matched it, but I was like, I don't know if this is gonna
Yeah.
work. I don't wanna do it
Yeah.
all the time." I got away with it's what happened.
Yeah. I think, especially like in my case, being electric shift, I have to like pat my belly and, whatever to get it to do four
Yeah.
low. Whoever decided that a simple lever to the transfer case, whoever you are, I hope you see this, or if you're a descendant of that person, I don't like you. Because I hate electric shift. I really do. The only
That's
time I do really like it is if I'm in the snow or any instance where like shit, I need four-wheel drive now. I like that, but I don't like being shackled to interlock safety systems for my four-wheel drive to work.
Yeah, so the interlock safety stuff, that's hard to get around. I don't mind the electronic stuff. I think the big issues with the electronic shift is people don't use it enough to keep it active.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
don't use it, you lose it.
Yep.
It's gonna bind up. Like you need to keep stuff moving.
Especially where we
I mean,
live.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But we get into so much fine silt and stuff that just gets into everything, and it's getting in there, and it's going to bind it up. And if as long as you're shifting into it, I don't know what, once a month,
Yeah.
once every
I
other
mean,
month, something like that. Like go
yeah.
drive around in your yard in 4-wheel drive for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
When it's raining, that's my big thing. Before I put the camper on anyway, in the rain, man, you thought I had a drift truck. I could just blow the back tires off of it, and the only way I could drive it safely was 4-wheel drive, and
Yeah.
that was enough. You know,
Yeah.
just
And for those of you guys that don't know, Aaron's got is it a second gen
no, it's
taco?
first gen.
First gen taco.
Yep, it's an OT.
And without the camper, very light,
Very
very
light.
light. I think mine's I'm a little heavier. I don't struggle in the rain too much. However, we've been getting some pretty interesting storms where I have driven in four high on the road in the rain, and you're not going to break it. I promise. I think that you will be more likely to have issues from never using it than if you were to use it too much. As long as you don't do stupid stuff with it, cutting the wheel and flooring it and binding the thing up, and use it properly.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about electronics, and this is going to tie us into all-wheel drive and the magical center differential.
Man, all-wheel drive is one-wheel drive, essentially. You
In almost everything.
in almost everything. Now, I think with the electronic stuff, they've gotten into torque limiting and making sure that they're not one-wheel drive, that they are trying to be two at best.
Yeah.
It's all-wheel drive is good for, I would say, rally racing, gravel roads, high speed,
Mhm.
rain, where you're on a high traction base surface
Yeah.
that could
Yeah.
potentially be slippery.
Yeah. I think there's
Man,
also there's generations of it that are better and worse than others
yeah,
too. So like think about a modern all-wheel drive. Odds are there's a CVT involved in that equation, which
building heat because they
yeah,
probably don't have low range.
right, just the cone of death. I think that I'm not saying you can't go off-roading in an all, you can off-road literally
No,
anything, especially rental cars, actually. Excellent to practice in.
no, there's some very formidable all-wheel drive vehicles that I've
Yeah,
seen.
I mean the Outback Wilderness, right?
You and I
Great
are
for
thinking of
what they
the same
do.
one.
Great
Yep,
for what they do. Outside
yep.
of that, I mean, I would say if you are in the market for something that hits that, like, I don't really off-road all the time, but I kind of want to, but really I want to
Off-roading.
explore. So yeah, I would look for something that allows you to, it's going to be electronically, but electronically lock that center differential. I can't promise that that's going to be like your savior, but it's going to at least give you a better chance.
Yep. And I think that having a traction control system that works in tandem with the all-wheel drive is just as good, if not better, than the older stuff that only had the center diff lock.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Audi comes to mind as just being
Yeah.
phenomenal in off-road services. Now, I mean, I am never going to even be
I
in the position to off-road an Audi, but,
no. I have I'm kinda anti-European vehicle.
yeah.
I prefer lug nuts over wheel studs.
Yeah, well, I also use this hand when I'm driving, and it does this when I'm going this way and this when I'm going this way. So
Yeah.
I use turn signals. Now, are are the Porsches, the Caymans, are they all-wheel drive or do they have a transfer case?
I have only been in one of them, and it was a wreck that a guy was trying to restore, and I don't know what they have. I know that's what is it? A dressed up Volkswagen
Touareg,
Touareg or
I think
something.
so.
What are those? V8?
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
the
whatever
twin
they
turbo.
are,
They're
they
rowdy.
kick ass. Yeah, they're great. So that's an option if you're into that stuff.
A lot can be fixed with a rowdy motor too.
Yeah.
I don't know what the drivetrain is in that particular
Now
vehicle.
there's some vehicles though that just don't do it. They just weren't built for it, and you can make it happen, but you're not going to have a good time. If some things come to mind that just have like these real comfort dial mode things, and really it's just like an Econo box. You got like 2 inches of ground clearance, no suspension travel. Stellantis makes them.
I hurt a feeling.
Sorry, Kyle.
Here's how I look at it. If you're looking at a vehicle to get out in the woods and car camp, soft-roading, you should be looking at what the aftermarket is for that vehicle. Is there a good bit of support? And if there's not, that should be a pretty good indication that there's not a lot of people doing what you
Yeah,
wanna do with that vehicle, and
right.
if they're not doing it, there's a reason for it.
Yep.
There's better choices out there. Can it
Yeah.
do it? Yeah, man,
Yeah.
absolutely. I've seen
And
a
there's
'98 Corolla just kill it off-road. I mean, the Gambler
yeah,
500 guys will swear up and down, that's the best off-road vehicle there is.
yeah,
It's you can do stuff with things that weren't meant to do it, but
right.
overall, like, if you're coming into this, you need to be looking at what's got aftermarket support.
Yeah. And there's things you can do. Like, let's say that you have just a basic 4-wheel drive open diff truck. Well, guess what? That's what all of our granddaddies were running, and they did probably the same or more than we did. And there's things you can do to give yourself a little bit of an edge. And one of the things that, hell, I did this for the first 10 years I have in my truck before I got a locker, was left foot braking when you're under load. What a lot of folks don't really realize you can do is you can kind of fake a locker. It's not like foolproof, but let's say that you have a wheel that's unweighted and it's just sitting there and you're just spinning. Well, if you keep some steady throttle and you start slowly applying the brake, kind of like you're doing a burnout, but don't floor it. You're not trying to do a burnout. Start
Try to
slowly
sneak up
applying.
on your burnout.
Yeah, ease into her. You don't want to just you're sneaking in and just slowly start doing that. You're gonna feel now this wheel that isn't engaging is gonna start. It's gonna start engaging, and this wheel that was just spinning is gonna try to start locking up. And actually, sometimes your ABS system is even gonna help with this. Now, there are some vehicles where if you have the gas pressed and the brake pressed at the same time, it freaks out and cuts power. That sucks. Sorry. You can't
Probably
help
one of the
yourself.
vehicles that isn't meant for this, though.
Yeah, but man, you're in a nice pickup truck, dude. You get yourself out of a
Yep,
lot
yep,
of pinches using that trick for sure.
yep. And that's a lot of what the traction control systems do for you now.
Yep.
It's just you gotta make sure you gotta understand how that system works. I've seen a
Hmm.
lot of people where they do have traction control turned on, and they get in a situation with 2 unweighted wheels, 1 on each axle, and they're sitting there spinning, and they'll give it gas and stop, give it gas and then stop. Where some of that stuff you need to be spinning for 3 seconds or so under, I don't know, what is it, like 5 or 10 mile an hour? It's something really
Yeah,
low,
I mean, like
like
my
throttle, and
yeah,
it'll start grabbing. It'll apply brakes. You'll hear the ABS pump kick in, and it starts grabbing those wheels until you
yep,
move again. And I think that's just as good as a locker as long as you know how to operate it and what it's
right,
going to do.
yep, and you'll
I don't
hear,
wanna say just as good. It's 80% because
yeah,
there's momentum that you can keep with a locker.
Yep.
But
I think the best example that I saw of that was we were night wheeling in Kentucky and Aaron had the Subaru out
yep,
and there was an uphill. It was tough. It wasn't an easy climb by any means for really anything. And this thing was, doing the Roomba thing, bang, pick a line, bang, pick a
yep.
line. But he was picking his way through. There's a section that was real, it just unloaded opposite ends. And same deal. He just kept steady throttle, but at a very low speed. And you could actually hear, I don't know if it's a pump for the
It's the
all-wheel
ABS
drive
pump.
or if it was ABS or both. But I mean, it did its thing and locked up there. So there's ways. You don't have to have a double lock, triple lock rig to go out and you don't need lockers at all. I mean,
You don't need
honestly,
lockers.
I
I
just
think
bought
lockers take
one.
away from fun
Yeah,
at times.
yeah. I bought one because I was bored. I mean, I was running out of mods. So I was like, well, I guess I'll throw a locker in. I mean,
I mean, that's kinda how I ended up with lockers. I found a rusted out part out, and I bought a, set of 456 gears front and back for $125, and I'm like, "Well, they're sitting on the workbench, let's throw lunchbox lockers at them." I was
yeah.
geared and locked for $600.
No, you
Like,
can't. Yeah,
I
can't
can't
can't beat
can't
that.
no.
Yeah, yeah. I think using the right gear, very ideal. Airing down, very ideal. But once your vehicle's prepped, the person has to be prepped. So picking the right line. What should we do?
Picking the right line. There's so much that goes into that that's scenario dependent. The first thing I'm looking at is how do I keep my vehicle as flat as possible? How do I
Mm,
avoid what we were just talking about of
yep.
getting two unloaded tires, one on each end of the vehicle? I'm trying to look
I
at
think
what's going to reach up and grab stuff under the vehicle too. I want to keep
yes.
much ground clearance under the vehicle as possible. I'm driving for the high spots.
Yep. What I like to explain to people is I want you not to get so much object fixation, which we'll talk about, but scan for the lowest part of the trail. Whatever, like if you were looking at it from this angle, whatever is the deepest valley, put that under your cup holder. Try to keep the center of your vehicle over top of that lowest part. And there's a pretty good chance you're not going to get hung up on anything. You're not going to fall into anything. And you're going to stay as flat as that trail is going to allow you. Because as soon as you fall into something and you take that rut, because what does everybody do? They see a rut, they stare at it. It's like riding a bike. You're in the rut, you know.
You're going to go where your eyes go.
Yep. And the same is true, and I think we've talked about this on Flagpole. You're coming up the only real obstacle on Flagpole is that shelf. And
I don't even know if it's an obstacle anymore because of the rock stacking, but we're gonna get to that.
yeah, yeah. But
But
look at that tree on the right. I don't know
yes,
how it's still standing. It's rubbed completely raw because everyone comes up that and they go, "Ooh," and they hit the tree. There's 3 car lengths to your left, and they hit the tree.
it's so deceiving. So the left side, everybody thinks just drops off into Never Never Land. But there's
Right.
enough that if you come up there to the right and turn left before the obstacle, it keeps you pretty flat and
Yeah.
away from that tree.
Yep. Now, if anyone is a camo OG and witnessed the rock event, yeah, so this is probably like 6 or 7 years ago now, but I was just being an ass and I'm like, I wonder if I can go like all the way left, like passenger front on the big rock. And I just came up and just nosed into that rock, just boom, and glanced off of it and like bellied the truck out on it. But that was being dumb, but ultimately, what to think about is you're going to go where your eyes are looking. And if you can kind of cognizantly think as you're driving, okay, I need to keep the low part of this trail in the middle of this truck because I know if I do that, I'm not falling into anything and I'm going to stay level. If I stay level, I'm going to keep my drive line equally balanced and I can drive.
Absolutely.
I think that helps.
The thing you gotta watch too, though, is if just because the lowest part of the trail is under your vehicle doesn't mean that the high parts that you're hitting isn't going to push the top of the cab into something.
Mhm.
You pick up the driver's side, that means the top of your cab is going to the passenger side. And
Yep.
it's going to be all proportional. You've
Yep.
got a taller vehicle than wide, like my camper now. It's
Mhm.
really swinging over there. It
Yeah.
hangs over the side.
Yep, absolutely. That's a really good point, and especially For any of you guys, if we have anyone on the West Coast that listens to us yap, see, we have these crazy things on our trails in the East. They're called trees, and it's something that you have to watch that you don't hit when you're off-roading. I know it doesn't, believe it or not, it doesn't just look like a highway made out of rocks. We have obstacles, and you'll see. And you brought it up earlier. Kind of scan as you're coming up through the trail, especially if there's something like, okay, this is something, an obstacle I need to pick my way through. Are there trees that are beat to shit? Because if they are, that means people are hitting them, and there's a reason that people are hitting them.
It will trick you. It is. That's the sign. Hey, there's something tricky here. Look at this closer.
Yep.
You know, don't follow the guy in front of you because he might not have seen it. He might be in something that is a lot lower. He doesn't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And I think, my biggest thing, and this ties into the next bit a little bit, but if you get onto an obstacle and the line that you've picked just isn't it, like you're sitting there and you take a big hop and now your truck isn't even pointed the way you were going. Unless you know for certain where you landed and what's in front of you, just back up. It's not like a off-road gate competition. Like, you want to see where you're going because you're sitting in the front third of your vehicle. There's 2/3 of truck behind you, sometimes more depending on what you're driving. And you might be sitting your drive shaft or your rear diff on a big ass rock. And if you aren't careful, you're going to end your day. So don't force stuff. And if you're sitting there spinning, so there's
spinning
times,
has a plate.
Yeah. So like, I'm trying to think, like out west when we were wheeling Colorado and you're on the flat rock and like you got to go that way. You sit there, you get the dust off your tires. They get a little bit warm. You're steady on the throttle. You're not flooring it. You're not hopping. It'll grab and go. That's appropriate. Mud, obviously, you got to clear the mud. If you're already in it, you're in it. But if you're in like soft earth or really anything else that we wheel in the East, if you're spinning, you kind of already messed up. So just back up and come at it again. It might be a line issue, might be a tire pressure issue, could be a tire issue itself, which that you're probably not going to fix by the other two. Might drop some more pounds, but
Out there, like vehicle itself issue, like there's
yeah.
If you're falling off of something like that, it could be wrong setup. It can be, there's so many variables there.
Mm-hmm.
There really is. It's tough to point to one thing. It's just, if it's not working, you need to back up and reassess and come at it again. Eliminate a variable and try again.
Yep. And that is a really good situation where if you choose to not do that and you're just going to send it, it's like throwing a pass on first down, right? Like best case scenario, somebody catches it, but like there's a lot of bad things. Like the best bad thing that can happen is it's just incomplete and it doesn't go anywhere, but
Right.
you throw it in. So what I'm saying is you can break stuff. You can screw the trail up. It's just not why, you're not in competition. So don't force something that's not there. And I've watched people do that. And it's like, dude, you gotta drive it home. You gotta fix that, or someone does. So someone's gotta fix that, And maybe that's it. Maybe it's the dudes that don't have to fix their own shit that are just like, I'm just gonna send it.
Yeah, I think there is a correlation to people who don't understand how the vehicle works, how it was designed, why it works the way it does, and they don't know how to utilize the stuff or keep it alive.
Yeah.
They're going to pay somebody to fix it, and they're going to go back out again and do it again.
Yep. And honestly, I mean, I know someone very well like that. Drove. I think he sold it. Drove an orange Bronco. He was one of the most fun guys to wheel with, truthfully. He straight up told you, he's like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Whatever happens to this thing, I'm gonna drop it off at Ford, and whatever they say, I don't care. They're gonna fix it. I thought to myself, you know what? If my bank account looked like that, I might do that. That sounds kind of fun, you know? But
I like the thought of not wrenching on anything.
Yeah, I know. But unfortunately, the way my bank account works is that when I break something,
we are the used car warranty.
Yeah. Yeah. And not only am I buying it to fix it, but also I'm fixing it, and I'm kind of tired of fixing stuff, to be honest with you. Like, I really like wrenching and I like modding, but like I'm maintenanced out. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Not so much don't want to do it anymore, but and this is a bit of a tangent, but like prep for the rallies, and we've talked about this a little bit. I know I go overboard. I do. There's things I
don't
do.
think you do. I think that should be the standard.
I guess I do a lot because I'm terrified of braking. And I think it's not that I'm over it, it's just kind of
So
over it.
I do it less because I'm afraid of breaking. Like at some point you got to accept something's going to happen. You're going to have to deal with something unexpected. Like you're going to break. But it's kind of lost my train of thought there. It's
Sometimes the
yeah, help me here.
sometimes the reward is really not worth that risk. Like best case scenario, the boys are like, "Yeah, dude, that was awesome." And then there's like a video that gets shared on like Facebook Messenger in like crappy quality, and that's like the end of it. But you did $3,000 worth of damage.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think, and honestly, I think that ties into, we have a section here for mistakes that drivers make, and I think we could honestly go down through this list, and there's things on here that I guarantee we have seen every single one of these multiple times. Probably there's one I know we talked about it, and it was on Fincastle Road on the Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway. I had some of the most fun on that trip, and
Absolutely.
that
That was
group
my
of
first trip.
guys. Well, that's right. That's right.
Yep. That
That
was
group
so
of
sick.
guys, that group of guys was so fun. Everyone was in such a good mood. It was some of the worst driving I've ever seen.
Yes.
And I think we can run through these, and if any pop out, but and I've talked about this one, but spinning ain't winning. If you're sitting there spinning tire, 9 times out of 10, unless it's the circumstances we've talked about, just try again. You're gonna break stuff. There's no reason to tear the trail up or tear your truck up. Just don't do it. Stopping on a hill, stopping in a hole, or stopping in a climb.
Momentum is king.
Yeah, yeah, and my gosh, my mind goes to the 24 hours of what was that, Mothman?
The steep hill. Yes.
Yeah, I know. When I made it through there, I think I even said on camera something real jerky about Subarus. I was like, "Oh, it's a bad day to be a Subaru." I didn't know it was a bad day to be everybody.
So I got up to that and we went up it and you kind of got stopped about halfway up. And
There was that
I'm
rock
double
that
locked.
bounced you.
I didn't have a bounce. I kind of went up and it just got a little steeper and was gumbo at that point.
Yeah,
And I kind of did the whole four-wheel spin thing, like, hey, maybe it's going to clean up here, let the tire get a little hot. And there was just gumbo, nothing.
Yeah,
And it was back up, 4 low, third gear. Let's launch this thing. And up we went. And once
Yeah.
you got 10 feet past that spot, you were good to go. Went
Yeah.
right up. There's all the traction
yep.
you could
And
want.
I lucked out there. I had a head of steam. I'd actually just made a wrong turn. So I was like a little bit annoyed, and it was in the middle of nowhere. So I was coming through there cooking pretty good, and kind of came out of that corner at the bottom, and I saw the hill, and I was like, "Ooh." And I was just like in the right gear to keep momentum. But yeah, if you have someone behind you, and it kind of goes two ways, and this is another one on here,
Yes.
but like don't tailgate somebody going up a hill, because there shouldn't be a circumstance where if someone has an issue, you get hit because you were too close. With that said, if it's like not that serious of a hill and you guys are cruising together, don't stop on a hill and be like, "Oh, I gotta fix something on my roof rack."
Yes.
Yeah, don't stop on hills.
Just don't stop
on
on a hill.
Yeah.
The manual people will be upset.
Yes, yes. Especially, I just think about my dad in the snow every time we take a trip into the mountains and he's got the Hummer out. It's just like, I know, like if we stop for whatever reason, dude, it's like Murphy's Law. He's gonna be in a corner on a hill that's straight up and down in 3 feet of snow.
Yep.
Like, "Oh, sorry, Dad." What else? Too fast or too slow? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Try as we might, none of us are Robbie Gordon. None of us are going to be Robbie Gordon. As much as I like to think that that'll happen for me one day, that'll never happen. I just like to pretend. Don't be that guy. You're going to crash your truck. You're going to break your truck. You're going to hurt somebody, hurt the trail. Just slow down. That's about it. Too slow. Yeah.
Mud.
Yeah. Even snow sometimes.
Rocks. You can go too slow on rocks and fall down into a hole and not have the forward momentum to get
Yeah.
enough traction to the front tires to pick you back up out of that
Yeah,
rock.
that's a really good point. And I'm going to try to think of how to word this. When you come up to an obstacle, come up to it with the foresight to plan on where you're going to lose your momentum. And what I mean by that is if you see a rock ledge, you know that as soon as you hit that ledge and the front end comes up, the truck is going to start to slow down. And if you miss that window of opportunity to keep forward momentum, now you lost it. You immediately lost it. So I don't know how to explain it other than you're going to get this through experience with your truck. But when you come into those obstacles, you're going to feel that load come on and you want to roll into it a little bit when you feel that load where you start to lose momentum. Don't floor it. You're not jumping. You're just keeping momentum.
This is where being in 4 low and having that gear reduction, you will notice 800 RPM drop quicker than you'll notice half a mile an hour drop.
Definitely.
And that should be your indication that "Hey, I'm losing momentum. I need to give it a little bit more gas to keep going." And you can breathe on that gas a little bit. Not step on it, but just lay into it a little bit. Give it what it needs to match it. Bring it back up to 2 grand. Nothing
Yep.
crazy. Just
Yeah.
bring it up. Get some power available.
Yeah.
Maintain the momentum.
Yep, and that ties into the next one here, right? Like, just reset and try again. Don't force something that's screwed up because you are never gonna unscrew something up. Like, you're just gonna either get by or get lucky. But once your plan, it's like everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, like, we're not dropping into Iran, right? You can try again.
Yeah. Yep.
So don't
And
force stuff.
back up farther than you think you need to. You want to back up
Mhm.
3 feet, back up 4 car lengths.
Yep.
All right. Because you're going and think about where you're going backing up. Do I want the rear end to sit 3 feet to the right so that I'm straighter on this obstacle? Is it going to move my tires to where I'm going to hit stuff flatter and climb
Yeah.
over things?
There are very few instances, and it would be so obstacle dependent, but you want your wheel straight whenever you hit the obstacle.
And as much to it as possible.
Yeah, because as soon as you increase that steering angle, or I guess decrease, whatever, when your wheels turn,
You're increasing.
yeah,
You're giving it.
yeah, you're binding, and we didn't even really talk about this, but your suspension compressing and droop plays into that too. So you got to have protection of your truck in mind and staying flat and staying square. If you can remember those two things, how can I keep my truck as flat as possible and as square as possible to this obstacle? You're not going to flip the thing, and you're probably not going to lose traction.
And staying off the brakes with that
Mhm.
too, because brakes will bind up the suspension and limit travel as much as hitting it wrong.
Yeah. 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 And especially like, I mean, this is really in the weeds too, but like your setup plays a lot into it. Most of us are IFS trucks. We actually don't really have a lot of solid axle guys. And,
I
as
mean,
soon
I
as you,
want to be, but
yeah, I know. I know. So as soon as you start adding, suspension lifts, and now we have adjustable upper control arms. Well, we have bigger tires, so now we're running more positive caster, right? Well, what does that do for us? On an IFS rig, you might not get the bump steer that you get out of something that's a solid axle rig, but you're also getting slower turn in. But once that wheel goes, man, is it going to want to rip it out of your hand, And those are things that you're going to realize as you change your setup. Like, okay, like, does it make sense for me to have this? Or maybe you're lifted and maybe you have a mid-travel kit and you are running like maybe 0 degrees of caster. And every time you hit a rock, your tires are like, you might think like, oh, well, that's just what happens. But really, that's a setup thing, So that's something to consider. And like, truthfully, I mean, that's super in the weeds. And if you don't know what I was just talking about, like, don't
yeah.
worry about it. You know what I mean? But that is something to consider.
The one
But
thing that I think people miss with the upper control arms, the adjustable ones anyway, if we're talking about adding bigger tires to these vehicles, is they don't utilize the adjustability in those arms and what is there in the lower arms to be able to move your axle center line forward and back to get
yes.
clearance.
Yep.
You can, SPC is the one that comes to mind, but there are other adjustable ones out there.
Mhm.
You can get your whole front suspension to move forward inch and a
Yes.
half. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty much you can
Yeah.
get that,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is 2 inches on a tire to have the
Yeah.
same clearance.
Really advantageous. Yeah.
It really is, and you can still do that and get your caster angles to where they're happy, and it
Yeah.
drives nice, and it's not
Yeah.
doing all the dumb stuff like what you were saying.
Believe it or not, I run 4 3/4 degrees of caster on the Frontier. Now at at slow speeds turning, you're like, but in 4-wheel drive, it's not really an issue. But like you could, if you're in a parking lot, you're like, wow, this is some heavy steering. But when I'm moving, like if I'm sending it on gravel, dude, it's like, it feels like it has a gyro. Like it is really dialed in.
It's
that.
locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm 1.9 and 2.3, something like that. I'm
I
right
gotta
around
bump it
there.
up. I gotta bump it up, especially with the 35s, because otherwise I gotta cut fenders off basically, and I don't really want to do that. And I was super pleasantly surprised. Like when I first made that adjustment, because I went from like 2 degrees to damn near 5, like maxed out.
It's a big jump.
Yeah. And I'm looking
Huge.
at it. Yeah, really it is, because you
It's a
feel a
huge
half a
jump.
degree. You feel a half a degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm thinking, when I first turned the wheel backing out of my driveway, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. And then I took off down the road and I hit a corner kind of hard and I was like, this is
Nice.
sweet. Yeah. So play with it. And if you're like,
Watch your tire wear too, because it's
yes.
going to roll that tire over more. You're going to be running more on the edge with
people don't realize that too. You might want to throw in some negative camber now, right? And like that's a whole other thing. So like I threw in -2 degrees of camber. It was a whole thing. I spent 3 days screwing with my alignment in my shop. That's such a funny joke. I was in my driveway. But yeah, it was, I mean, I actually had to walk away from it a couple times because I was so pissed off. It either wasn't giving me the clearance I needed, or I would set caster and then I'm looking at camber and I'm like, God, finally I got dialed in and I'm very happy with it. But I know that's a bit of a tangent, but setup does really play a role into what you're doing. If you got what you need to do down pat, you can start looking at setup and stuff like that, and you're only going to get better. Here's something that everybody can listen to. I'm talking to you, Subaru people. If you stack rocks, rock stackers.
Stop it. Well, do it.
Yeah, but get rid of them. Get rid
Get
of them.
If you stack the rock, you unstack that rock.
Yeah. See, actually, this I'm gonna tell you a secret. I like to go off-roading, and I like obstacles. There's so many instances where like I've come up on stuff and it's like, how long did this take? You moved half the damn woods with rocks and shit.
Where did you find these rocks?
Dude, I've come up
Yes.
flagpole sometimes, and like they had to have had a whole ass team. I mean, it was like building the pyramids, rolling stones up from the bottom of the mountain. But use some etiquette.
Yes, it has permanently changed trails that were difficult and a draw for the area as the destination and turned them into minivan passable.
Yes.
And that sucks.
Here comes another tangent, but
yeah,
this is really important. Wheel within your skill set. That should go without saying. However, it's a big problem. And I'm just going to call it out, man. I was scrolling on Instagram the other day and I came across a group who was walking backwards down the shelf road after the waterfall of Black Bear Pass in Colorado. Now, we've done Black Bear Pass, and the switchbacks, they're tough. That very first right-hander, like, to me, there was nothing like that sight of, like, the whole ass world in front of you over this cliff. We elected to not get out of the truck and just use our eyeballs so that we didn't have someone standing on a cliff there. But these individuals were driving down the shelf road, which is enough to get a Caterpillar D6 down, which is what they travel that road with. And they were spotting each other down the shelf road. If your comfortability level is there, and this isn't an attack at the guys. I mean, I've done lots of dumb stuff, but just this is a really good example. If your comfortability level is there, you're not putting yourself or anyone around you in a safe position. You are a liability to everybody around you, because that was the easiest part of the whole deal. Now, I didn't see what they did elsewhere. And if whatever, man, like if you don't feel comfortable on an obstacle, that's one thing. Absolutely call for a spotter. But that's the whole trail. You know, when you're in over your head, and especially in a sensitive area like that, where if you mess up, it makes the news, it makes the local paper. Karen goes to the township meeting and complains about you. It gets closed. It's not
It
fair.
could make the obituaries.
Yeah, that's an even greater point. I mean, we just lost
World
man,
Runners, Matt and Stacy.
Matt and Stacy. That was I mean, I don't know the details of just really sad. A rollover of some sort that was
Roll
not good.
over on a cliff road.
And they
Shelter
knew
road.
what they were doing. They had a ton of experience doing this.
Yes.
So if it can happen to them, if it can happen to the guy who was a guide for years, it's really likely to happen to you that isn't comfortable doing the basic stuff. There is zero shame in bowing out of something that's over your head or your vehicle's head, or if you just don't feel comfortable doing it. I mean, I don't like heights. So you know what I don't do? I don't go up high on anything. It's just like I'm not trying to impress anybody. And like I haven't done Potts Mountain yet. I would like to. I would like to do
You and
Potts
I
Mountain.
need to hit that. You and I
Yeah.
haven't hit it.
But I jokingly tell guys, they're like, "Hey, is there any entry level off roading to do in Virginia?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, dude, Potts Mountain." Obviously, I would never actually send somebody there, but I'm sure there are people that have gone on Onyx and looked at trails in Virginia, and Potts Mountain is like super big on the heat map, man. But if you show up there with no experience, best case scenario, you can get turned around and leave. That's the best case scenario.
Yep.
There's a lot of really bad scenarios, and they all end with your vehicle being completely thrashed.
Yep.
So yeah,
I
just
think a good measure of what your skill set is knowing exactly how big your vehicle is, where the tires are, and how much ground clearance you have underneath.
Mhm.
If
Yep.
you can park within an inch of a wall and know where your nose is, that's
Yeah.
important.
Yes.
If you can back up and know, hey, my back end is so many feet back, and you can see
Mhm.
it in the mirror, that's important.
Yeah. That's a huge point. I mean,
That's how you sneak between trees. That's how you get between rocks. That's
Yeah.
how you sneak past somebody who shouldn't be on an obstacle in their minivan, and you need to keep going
Yeah.
about your day.
And you're not gonna be a pro overnight.
It
There's
takes a
a
long time and a
there's
lot
a
of seat
video.
time in that vehicle.
Yes, there's a video that exists of me about 10 years ago now. Holy, with Steven Vilbert. If you're listening, you can go ahead and you can post this video if you're listening. I'm not going to embarrass myself, but we were in Bald Eagle State Forest, which if you haven't wheeled Bald Eagle, there's no wheeling. There's like one or two roads, and there was just this little drainage trench. I mean, it was something that like my son would probably ride his Strider bike through. But I had about 2 weeks of like real experience in my truck off-roading, right? And I am going through this. My suspension is barely unloaded, and I'm leaning out the window, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, "Steven, am I good, dude? Like, am I gonna lift a tire?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't think so. I think you're gonna be okay." And when I watch that video now, it embarrasses me so bad. But then you think like, well, yeah, everyone has to feel that way at some point. You have to learn those things. And now I know when the tires are coming up, and I know when it's going to flop.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but you
I
have
have
to have the seat
apparently
time.
Yep, you gotta have the seat time. I have apparently been on 3 tires a lot more than I've realized since I put the camper on, but I kinda know when it's happening, but it's okay. It's okay
Yeah.
to pick up a tire. You would be surprised at how far you can pick a tire up in the air and still keep a vehicle flat.
The craziest example I've seen of that, when we took a trip up to Vermont, James was in his Sequoia, first gen Sequoia, uh, Granny Gold street tires. Like, I think it has the
G-Metrics.
factory oil in it.
Got the factory rust on it too.
We are in the middle. I mean, we are in a class 4 hours from the nearest electricity. I mean, it was beautiful, and we came across this road that kind of wound you up a mountain, and from it being so steep and the water running down, there was a really big trench in the center, and if you missed straddling it, you were going in it. And he was aired down as far as I would on, I think they might have been passenger tires.
You
I
brought the
think
G-Metrics.
yeah, and I think we dropped him to like 15. I think for that road, maybe 14.
Pretty
And
soft.
yeah, soft enough. I mean, it's heavy enough.
Well, soft enough.
But
yeah.
it had just rained a little bit, so it was like getting real slick. And he dropped down into that. And he comes up over the radio and he's like, "Hey, I dropped into the trench." I'm like, "All right, dude, just hold the brake. I'll come on back. Do you need pulled out?" He's like, "No, I just need a spot." And I'm like, "Oh, all right, cool." I truck back. His driver's side front tire was at head level. I could reach in front of my face and spin it, and passenger rear was touching the dirt. I've never seen a truck 3-wheel that high before in my life. And
Yeah.
he's just sitting in there cool as a cucumber because he was so new and didn't know his, and no fault of his own. He just never done anything quite like that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't know how actually sketchy it was. He was so cool as a cucumber. It was hilarious. He's like, "Am I good to just go forward?" And I'm like, "No, no, dude, you're not good at all." I wish, because it was actually like, it was a little sketchy. I was worried he was going to flop backwards. He wouldn't roll because the trench was there, but he would have laid it on the door, you know? So I wish we would have taken a picture because it was pretty awesome. But yes, to your point, you can 3-wheel pretty safely before these things
With the
flop.
back tire. You can get a back tire off the ground. You get a front one off the ground, it's a little bit sketchier.
Yeah.
You're more likely to roll that way.
Yeah. That
I
was,
think everybody wants the picture of like the front tire 3 feet off the ground, but
Mhm.
it takes a certain setup with a vehicle to do that.
yeah.
You almost need like a 50-50 weight balance to do it,
Yeah.
and most vehicles aren't. They're nose heavy.
Definitely. But so I guess that kind of leads into, how do people practice, right? Like, I know for me, my closest off-roading in any real capacity, even though I live out in mostly BFE, it's all private property around me, really. And the public roads might be gravel. There might be one little trail, but I mean, what
Welcome
would you
to the
say
East Coast.
yeah. I mean, what would you say to somebody that wants to practice? What are things they should do?
You
I mean,
know, I think having a four-wheeler, something smaller that you can jump off of, and
Yeah.
finding that farm owner that will say, "Yeah, you can ride here in my field," you
Mhm.
know, and taking a four-wheeler out and sliding it around and learning weight distribution, how it's going to slide, how it's going to grab, how
Yeah.
far over you can lean it on things. Going up
Mhm.
on two wheel, I think that's important. You have a four-wheeler, you should know how to drive it on two wheels.
And
Like, you should be able.
understanding that balance point, and I think maybe if it's not
Yeah.
a four-wheeler, maybe it's, manualing a bicycle or something, and maybe you skateboard, whatever, something that gives you that understanding, physical, that touch correlation of balance.
Yes. Like,
Yeah.
so I have rolled enough smaller things enough times to know where that balance point is.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I went well over that balance point was it Bald Mountain Jeep Trail that night?
Up on that real long, where we did like 200 miles in a night or something.
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
it
yeah.
that? Yeah, yeah.
It was the
Yeah.
night that Julia's water pump went out. That
Oh
pulley went out
gosh,
or something.
that was a long
But
day.
that was a long night. Anyway, I got playing because the trail was I was getting bored, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm following a Subaru here, so I can probably play here a
yeah.
little bit. And I went up the left side of this obstacle, and I didn't realize there was a cliff, a big drop off on the other side. And I'm just going, doo, 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 and the right front dropped, and I've got a clinometer on the
Yeah, yeah.
dash, and it turns red at 30 degrees, and it just immediately started flashing. I was like, "Oh, no." And when I come down, it yanked the wheel out of my hand to the right, and I'm like, "Perfect, that's what I want." And I mean, just dumped the clutch, and it was enough to throw the rear end back down, and it was rough. I come down off of it. I think Alex told me the back tire was, like, feet off the ground.
Yeah.
It was up.
I heard him hollering on the radio. I was like, what the hell's going on back there?
I was partying that trip.
And that's actually, not to go off on too big of a tangent, and I'm super guilty of this too, but getting bored is actually like
It's dangerous.
equally as dangerous as being ignorant to like what you're doing. And a really good example of this is when we did Imogene Pass. We just had like a phenomenal experience doing it. Imogene is not like that difficult, but like the scenery, you just feel like you're on another planet, and like same deal, like, immaculate vibes. The guys are all having a great time. On the way down, we just decided that we were going to be dumb. I don't know why, but if a bad line existed, we were taking the stupid line. We weren't leaving the trail, but like, let's say there was a random ass boulder in the middle of the trail, we were running it over. Just
Yep.
Well, one of our regulars, Alex, had his Pro 4X, and there was a rock in the middle of the trail. And like the pretty clear way around this rock was to take the right and just kind of go around it. But there was a pretty sweet big ass flat rock on an angle that you could totally go up and around. And we both saw it. And when we both saw it, both wheels. I mean, we were heading right to it. And he was in front of me. I was right behind him. Well, when he went up it, he went way up it. It was probably like 12 feet wide. So wider than his truck. And he went way up. Well, I had just hopped on the radio and I was like, dude, cut it. And it started to lift passenger rear, and the cliff is on the right. It's a draw. A matter of fact, 2 years ago, it's actually where an individual fell off and passed. So it's like not a place to fall. Well, when he corrected it to drop off there, he gave it a little bit of gas. When he gave it a little bit of gas, the truck hopped when it landed. And when it finally came to a stop and he got on the brakes, the passenger front tire was hanging over the shelf road and he was bellied out on the edge of the shelf. And for me, that was probably like my biggest wake up call for like, whoa, you gotta like, even if you're having a great time, you gotta be careful because that was so close to being so bad. And it definitely tags back to like something my dad told me from the time I was born. It's just when you think you got it, that's when it gets you. And that was a really good example of us being very comfortable in our vehicles. And like, that was a very, very clear, that was just bad judgment on both of our parts. And like, it literally could have killed Alex. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think, that wasn't that long ago, but it was long enough ago for me to say with certainty that it sobered me up to being much more responsible off-road. Because when you see your buddy
Yeah.
literally dangling off a cliff by your winch line, you're like, you should actually not be stupid because you can die,
Yep. That's where I'm at right now is I've got 10 years in my truck. I've got 90,000 miles in it. I've got a lot of seat time and I've got it built to the point where it's kind of like, I don't want to say everything's easy. There's definitely challenges out there, but
Yeah.
I've been doing this a really long time
Yeah.
and I've gotten comfortable and there's times where I take risks that I really shouldn't. And
Oh,
just
I fully
because
get
I'm
that.
getting bored,
Yeah.
and it's like, let's keep things interesting here. And I start hitting stupid stuff and it's going to bite
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, dude, fully get it. I mean, I think like ultimately not taking responsibility off of myself here at all, at all. However, I will say I think a lot of that comes from the fact that we are losing access to so many areas where you can off-road and challenge yourself that it's like, I gotta find
Yes.
something, gotta find
You got to make
something.
some, yeah,
Yeah,
you get on these trails, you're like, man, let's keep this interesting. Let's make an obstacle out of this,
yeah.
I can do something that I shouldn't do here and we can have a little fun, but you shouldn't do it anyway.
Yeah, and like, I mean, we're both guilty of it. I know I'm super guilty of it, and I'm telling you, if you're doing that and you're listening to this and you've been listening the whole time, like, I know how to wheel. Like, odds are you're probably doing the same shit, and I'm telling you, I am actively trying to tell myself to stop doing that, and I encourage you to also talk to yourself as you're wheeling and be like, look, it is not worth the repercussions of me pushing it this far. It's just not. Now, if you're at a private off-road park and you're like a real yee, like you got a crawler or a bouncer, I'm not really talking to you. I'm talking to the dude that like drove his Forerunner to the local trails.
He's going to drive it to work Monday,
Yeah, yeah. Or
potentially.
even if it's a weekend toy, but it's still like a street truck. But
Yep.
if you don't have a street truck and you've been listening to this, like, I'm sorry, but like this wasn't really for you, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's something I don't know if I'll grow out of it. It's been 30 years of my life that I've been doing that, but I'm trying. I'm trying. I know the last rally for me was probably the hardest time because I was very much promising myself that I would not break like the speed rules. But boy, did I wanna.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I really, and I could have come in much quicker, but that would have taken being responsible and thrown it out the window. And I'm trying. I can't promise I'm done. When October rolls around and we're in Kentucky again, no promises.
Yep. You know, the thing that I haven't thought was a big a deal, what I'm slowly finding, I don't want to say finding out, I've always known, but like I'm paying more attention to now, is just getting it on gravel roads. You know, you spend the money on the truck, and if you build it right, 50 mile an hour on a gravel road isn't really an event.
Mhm.
It's just driving.
Mhm.
But you don't realize that, you know, when you start heading down a hill and you jump on the brakes and all of a sudden the front end locks up,
Yeah.
you don't have steering anymore and you're probably on a shelf road.
Yeah.
Like it gets sketchy.
Yeah.
I almost went off the road. If there wouldn't have been a berm there, if it wouldn't have been a recently maintained road, it probably would have been world runners
Yeah.
for us,
And
unfortunately.
that's one of the things, like, for me, you know, I think the Frontier is pretty hybrid in what it's built for, but I think what it excels the most in, or at least what I think I enjoy the most, is I very much like going fast on gravel,
Yes.
especially if it's real,
Well, just where you get
not necessarily
oh,
jumps, but
okay.
like kind of whoopy a little
Suspension
bit.
unloading, where you
Yeah.
get that float.
I get my rocks off like you could not believe, especially if I'm like in it in third gear and the tires come up a little bit and like you tap the limiter or something. Like that is the most angelic. However, man, kid on a four-wheeler who's just enjoying his Saturday on that same road.
Somebody's
How,
dog.
how do you live with yourself? You know what I mean? So those are the things that I'm trying to like,
Yep. That's
which
my thing is, like, I have passed campsites at 50 miles an hour on a gravel road that I didn't know were even there,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, man, and of course, it's like this time of year where we haven't had rain for, like, 6 years, and it's dusty, and
Just send a
I just
sandstorm.
yeah, I just gave him a sandstorm. It's like, well, I'm not stopping because that's a good way to get percussive dental work, so
hmm
I just you know, you keep going, but it's like, man, we all need to slow down. Yes, we've
Yeah.
got our vehicle built. Yes, it'll handle it, but man, speed sucks. Like
Yeah.
it's fun, it's addictive, but man, does it hurt.
And that's like, it's one of the reasons that we talked about this before we started, but the Appalachian Outlaw guys, I think that that's going to be a major outlet for us to like get some stupid out without being dangerous
Yes.
because they have a lot of land. And for anyone, you know, truthfully, I don't know a ton about it, but what I do know is you basically got 100,000 acres of very unrestricted off-road use for people that have the same mindset as us. And I've met them through other people and know that those are some really good dudes. I'm really excited to see what happens in, I believe, spring or summer of 2026. They're like green flag ready to go. They're already having WRC practices out there before they're even officially open and ready to go. They invested some crazy amount into a big ass visitor center. It's going to be legit. And it's going to be really fun. It's
It's
going to make
exciting
me,
for this part of the country.
well, hell yeah. It doesn't, I mean, we're getting an Ultra 4, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to make me want to build a 2-wheel drive trophy truck. I mean, there's some fiberglass for a Tundra trophy truck in my shed. That's that project is rolling. There's parts ordered for the trans, so that's coming. Hopefully, God willing, man, we get the other neck on this podcast and we can start talking about what it takes to build an actual trophy truck. Because
For
that's
the
like the
East Coast.
most, yeah, because
Because you
that's
don't
like
see too many.
no. And I've had, when we were working on that truck to get it ready for Mothman, that was some of the most fun I've ever had spinning wrenches in my life. That brought me back to like your first car cutting the exhaust off levels of like giddy excitement. Every single step was fun. And I cannot wait until we're back in the shop with all the parts in and putting that thing together because it's going to be really fun. And it's going to make me want to build one myself.
He's dropping LFs in that, right?
Yeah, so he might be mad. I'm just gonna spill the beans. So we got we got an LQ nut with 243 heads, some obscene sloppy cam. I don't remember the specifics for duration and lift and
A
everything,
three-quarter
but
race cam, right?
it's a pretty big, like I think he's talked about maybe not using that cam, but the thing is that the motor's buttoned up, like we're done. We're gonna run a 4L80. I am personally pushing for manual valve body, but it sounds like we might not go that route. Doesn't really matter. But like billet converter, built internals, shafts, you name it. It's already caged and it's back halved. There's some geometry changes that we want to do to the rear cage, to the rear back half. and we need to better tie that back half into the cage. We only had like 3 working days to build a race truck. One thing that we haven't talked about, which I actually think is going to be like a bitch, is steering. I don't really know a ton about. I'm assuming Hydra. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to know what the smart move is there, but I can tell you it's not going to be a Tundra steering rack from 2000 and whatever.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
we'll talk about that later.
yeah,
There's
that's another.
it doesn't have to be podcast.
No, but that's a project that I think is going to be really fun, and that'll
It's
let
gonna be
us
cool.
let off some steam and do some stupid stuff in a controlled-ish environment.
Yeah. That thing had a lot of potential for Mothman when it was sitting there
Yeah.
before the start. Like I was looking at like, man, if this thing gets set up right, it's a weapon.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think here's what I'm thinking. We've done almost 2 hours of yapping, and we have what I think we have is another episode here with spotters being a spotter, being a spectator, and when you get stuck. Because I think winching and recoveries in itself is probably its own. I think if we get started on that, it's going to be an episode in itself.
Absolutely.
Because I think we can go. There's a lot to talk about with that, and honestly, a lot to expand on. I think we could have a full conversation on that. But yeah, anything to add to what I think that worked out. I think that worked out really well. Hopefully that was beneficial to anyone
Yeah.
that's stuck with us this long.
I think we could we probably hit too low. And what was the other drivetrain that was there we were looking at? There were some other modes and things. We could probably touch on that a little more.
The modes. Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably do that since we were talking about it.
So I'm gonna be honest. I'm a mode hater. I hate them. I think when I hear people talk about them, I cringe. It makes my toes curl. I know, like I understand that they work really well in some use cases, but it's kind of like the EV thing. I fully understand that they're like faster and more powerful, but you're never gonna be like, get me to say they're cool.
Yeah. There's a time and a place. And I think there's vehicles who do it really well and there's or manufacturers who do it well, and there's other ones that just don't. Like
Yeah.
I think Ford's probably got the mode thing figured out with the Broncos and the Raptors.
Yeah.
I don't know with Mopar what they've got going. I think there's some modes and some of that stuff, but I don't know how
I think it just ejects
reliable.
I think it just ejects a piston in the Rams.
Windows.
But yeah, I mean, they definitely have their place, right? I mean, the only mode my truck has is like a descent mode. And like, I guess if you wanted to just burn your brakes up, it would be a good tool.
Yeah.
It's not very effective. It doesn't have anything to do with gearing. It's strictly an ABS module controller on my truck. So I would not use it. But, you know,
I look at modes as a way to keep a new person in a better situation that doesn't know how to modulate a full manual vehicle, I guess would be the wording. Like
yeah,
a
I think that's
non-road
fair.
vehicle.
Yeah.
And I think that once you get experience with that vehicle, you can start utilizing particular parts of modes. Like, say you get into, I don't know how these things work. I'm assuming like you get into snow. It's probably a lot of them's drive by wire. It's
Yeah.
probably going to slow down your throttle response. It's probably going to hold some gears a little longer so you don't have as much torque. You're not
Yep.
spinning. Like, I can see where, hey, that would help somebody. It would kind of be a little nice to have that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know, like in my wife's got a Telluride, and it's got a bunch of different modes and
Yeah.
stuff. And I think 3 of them are throttle maps, like comfort, sport, whatever. You know, they do well. I know in
Right.
the Armada had a snow mode, and it actually worked very well. It was like a second gear start thing, so that you didn't have first gear to
Yep.
spin the tires off, and then it slowed like throttle tip in. Like even if you floored it at various parts, it wouldn't actually let you do that, you know, with the drive by wire. So there's benefit, especially, you know, you got your grandma behind the wheel and you want to make sure she doesn't
Right.
just start
Right.
hammering on it in the rain. It's fair.
I think
Um,
is it the Raptors that are doing the electronic shocks as well? Like,
Yeah.
I can't.
And I'm pretty
Maybe
sure
the
those.
Broncos.
I think so. I think that the shocks there have an actual actuator for controls. I don't think it's the whatever that fluid's called. They
Not
send the electric. I don't think it's that.
the ferrofluid.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I think it's an actual actuator in those shocks. I think. I don't know. I'm
Like
too
it's
poor.
clicking or something. Yeah. Yeah.
I have to get out and turn mines.
Right, right, right. Well, you got dial. That's what I
Yeah,
got.
yeah.
What else? Too low. I use too low. I think that's a big thing with a manual trans.
Hmm.
Being able to stay in low range, like there's times you want torque, but you're on a high traction surface, like and high loads, like pulling a boat out of a boat ramp with a
Hmm.
sharp turn at the top. I've
Yep,
used
yep.
it for that a lot. There's been a lot of times where it's like we're staying under 30 mile an hour, but I don't need four wheel drive, so I'm going through a bunch of twisties, but I don't want to. It's easier to shift two wheel drive to four wheel drive than it is to shift from high to low.
Yeah.
So if I can separate that into like the twin stick setup or fake it
Hmm.
by interrupting the signal to the front drive shaft,
Yeah.
just putting a switch in like that, that's beneficial.
Hmm.
There's not too many vehicles out there running too low from the factory.
No, and like I have a Canadian build F-150 2015 27 and royal piece of shit. It's terrible. But what's cool is, and I think this is exclusive to the Canadian builds, but I don't know. I don't know a lot about the platform because I dislike it so much that I just don't want to know about it. But it has a two-wheel drive rear locker that engages in two-wheel drive.
That's
And
nice.
like surprisingly, if I'm going through my yard and my chicken coop is like up there, um, it's up a hill. And sometimes, like if it maybe has rained, it's sometimes more convenient to just like throw the rear locker on and not spin and drive the 20 feet up the hill. Um, I don't know. I guess
All
it's
right.
cool
What's your opinion? Would you rather have a two-wheel drive with a locker or a four-wheel drive open?
for what we do.
Yeah,
Yeah, four-wheel drive open.
four-wheel drive.
Yeah, because I can modulate that. I mean, that's how my Frontier was from 2020 or
That's
2021.
probably about the time period with my Tacoma too.
Yeah, I do want to build a two-wheel drive truck like really bad.
Yeah,
Like I want to spool like an 88 behind something really badly and just do some really, really reckless stuff in it.
yeah. A two-wheel drive spooled vehicle. I love drifting. That's my thing. Like I
Mm,
get on some gravel. I want the rear end coming out a little bit. Like
yeah,
it would be a lot of fun. You need the power to do it, and I'm
yeah.
lacking in that department. But
That's I have a pipe dream and I keep creating offspring, so it becomes more and more of a dream with every birth. But if I would love to find just a recycled or auctioned off old Advanced Auto or Napa two-wheel drive four-cylinder Nissan Frontier with the logo still on the door, and I want to pull that four-cylinder out, drop the VK56 V8 in it, run on realistically it would probably be another M226 with a true track, but like leave everything else as is. Maybe drop it just a hair,
yeah,
like a not like dumped, but a functional lowered suspension. That would be a really fun truck.
yeah. That's a whole episode we can get into there with suspension and people lifting too high and limiting
Hmm.
holes and
Drop
spacer heads and
brackets. We could upset the
dogs.
drop bracket people.
We could. We could.
They have their
We'll do
place.
that.
They have their
They
place.
have their place. Just not with us,
Yeah.
typically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a future episode.
Yeah. Well, I think we hammered it in. I think hopefully there's at least one person I know who's I sent some feels to. Love you, Kyle. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. Sorry,
I like
Kyle.
I like the Jeep. I do. It
Oh,
had some fun.
we've picked on quite a many of them,
Hmm.
nameless, but it's a it's an education thing. Like it
Yeah.
shouldn't be a defensive thing.
Listen, there's plenty of self-depreciating things that I could say in my off-road and overland pedigree. I've done some
Yep.
not great things, and that's why I feel confident in saying what not great things are. Because most of these things on here I've done
I'm
wrong.
guilty of it as well.
Yeah.
I've done it. Be able to say, yeah, this was stupid. Let's not do this again.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Well, listen, guys, I think that's going to wrap it. Until next time, let's keep the mostly shiny side up and the muddy side down. You can follow us on Facebook if you want to come along on some of our trips. That's going to be Central Appalachian Mountain Overland. We're pretty active in there. The chat feature, however, is going to be moving. I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do with that yet, but I want to find a place where we can all congregate and BS and talk about all of our pipe dreams together. So find us on there. This will be on Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. And give us a follow. If you want to argue with us, tell me that I'm stupid, please do that. I enjoy the heat very much. And I like to argue.
Likewise.
And yeah, if you enjoyed it and thought that we don't suck, I would appreciate that as well. I like a compliment as a male who is nearing middle age. To compliment would feel nice.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Yep. See ya.